You're listening to American Hope Talk Radio. I'm your host, WL Laney. My guest is Bob Burg, author of Endless Referrals, The Go-Giver, and Adversaries into Allies. We're in for a treat today. Welcome to the show, Bob.
Thank you very much for having me, WL.
Well, where do you want to start?
I'll tell you what, I'm just going to follow your lead.
All right, I'll start this way then. Of the three books that I just mentioned, which one is going to provide the best source of hope in today's economic circumstances?
You know, that's a great question, and they actually cover different areas, but I would say probably the Go-Giver would be the one to start with. That's a very short, brief, fun-to-read business parable or fable that was co-authored with John David Mann, who's a terrific storyteller. I'm much more of a how-to, step one, step two, step three person. John is he can weave a wonderful tale. So it's an hour and a half read, and that's going to really inspire people, give people hope, and let them know that by really focusing on providing value to others, both in the business sense and the personal sense, they're going to see great increase in their life as well. So that would probably be the one to start with.
Okay, well, let's talk about a salesman for just a moment, because that's what the story is about. Most salespeople, when they look at their product that they are offering, the first thing they calculate is their commission. Is that starting from the wrong
Unfortunately, that's very
premise?
true with a lot of salespeople, and those tend to be the least successful salespeople. The most successful salespeople understand this very basic premise, and that is shifting your focus, and this is the key, shifting your focus from getting to giving. And when we say giving in this context, we mean constantly and consistently providing value. Not only is that a nice way to live life, it's a very financially profitable way to live life. Why? Because money is simply an echo of value. It's the thunder to value's lightning, if you will, which simply means that the value must come first. And the money you receive is simply a very natural and direct result of the value you provide. In a free market-based economy, and we don't truly live in a market-based economy today, we live in a mixed economy, yet most people's business today still runs through a free market context, in the way that nobody is forced to buy from you, which is exactly how it should be. No one should be forced to buy from you. Because of that, they're going to do business with you when they understand the value that they're receiving from it. One of my great mentors, Harry Brown, once said, "Profit is simply the reward for pleasing another person."
I like that. That follows very closely with Zig Ziglar's famous quote, "You can have all that life has to offer if you will just help enough other people get what they want."
Zig was such a hero of mine, and the world lost a great one, and heaven gained a great one when Zig passed. What a wonderful man.
Yes, he was. What is the best advice you can give to somebody to get them started as a giver rather than just out for the commission or the money that they can make?
Well, the first thing they have to understand is why it's good business to follow the Go-Giver principle or what have you. And there's lots of great teaching out there from people, and all the great sales books out there and business books. All the great leaders we see, the best influencers, the top business builders and commission earners, they all do business that same way. They're always looking for ways to provide value to others. So the first thing is just to understand why it's good practice to do it that way. The second way, of course, is to find and follow a system that's congruent with your way of doing things, that helps you constantly focus on adding value to others, and just as importantly, being able to communicate that value. Because in a world that has become very commoditized, and because of that commoditization, there's that sort of inclination to try and lower your price to get the business. But it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work out well. Selling on low price, unless your name is Walmart, selling on low price alone is a race to the bottom. And it's not a race you're going to win, because even if you get the sale, that you've got no loyalty. That person's only going to stay with you till someone else comes along at a lower price. I always say that when you sell on price, you're a commodity. When you sell on value, you're a resource. So
Right.
in the day of commoditization, what we've got to do is communicate that we are that additional value, aside from the intrinsic value of the product or service we're selling. This can be done many ways, probably hundreds of ways, but it tends to fall under what John David Mann and I call the 5 elements of value, which are excellence, consistency, attention, empathy, and appreciation. And as you effectively communicate one or hopefully all 5 of those, you find that you're really looked at as somebody who that person wants to do business with and wants to refer to others.
Okay, what do you say to the individual who looks at Walmart and says, well, Sam didn't do too bad for himself?
Well, you always have you help that person in a tactful, gentle way to see the difference in context. Because you'd have to ask the question, what if you did that? What if you decided you were going to just sell your product or service at the lowest price possible? Let's say you're a graphic designer, and you're constantly going against other graphic designers. You're bidding against other graphic designers. And so what you're doing is, rather than try to communicate your increased value, what you do is you just sell on low price. Well, here's what happens. You may get the engagement, you may get the customer. But if what you're selling, if the price you're selling it at is so low that you're not making a good enough profit, then a couple of things are going to happen. One, it's going to be difficult for you to stay in business. 2, it's going to be difficult for you to enjoy being in business because you're always struggling financially. 3rd, you're not going to be able to provide the value in service and follow-up and follow-through that your customer needs. They're not going to be happy with you, and word is going to get around that you're not the right person to do business with. So you're hurting yourself by trying to take the Walmart approach when you're not Walmart, when you don't have that kind of buying power that they have in sorts. So it's apples and oranges. And so the best thing for most of us in business to do is focus on increasing perceived value rather than trying to lower our prices.
Okay, now you talk about perceived value. Is there a difference between perceived value and real value?
Yes, only in the sense that value is always, and this is important, value is always in the eyes of the beholder. See, there's a big difference between price and value. Law number 1 in the Go-Giver is the law of value, which says your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Now, what does this really mean? Because it sounds kind of counterproductive. Give more in value than I take in payment. Isn't that a recipe for bankruptcy? So we have to understand the difference between price and value. Price is a dollar amount. It's a dollar figure. It's finite. It is what it is. Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth or desirability of a thing to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, this service, this concept, this idea that brings with it so much worth or value that someone will exchange their money for it and be glad they did while you make a very healthy profit? May I give you a quick example?
Yes, please.
Well, let's say you hire an accountant, WL, to do your tax returns, and this accountant charges you $1,000. That's his fee or his price. But what value does he give you in exchange? Well, first, he saves you through his excellence, through his ability, through his study, through his empathy, through his attention and listening to what you need and what you value most. What he's able to do is save you $5,000 in taxes. He's able to save you countless hours of time that allows you to do what you are better able to do and find more enjoyable. He provides you with the security and the peace of mind of knowing it was done correctly. So what he's done is he's given you well over $5,000 in both concrete and intangible value, and in exchange for $1,000. So you feel great about it, and he made a very healthy profit, which he should. Now, this has to do with how you perceive value. Different people find different things to be of more value. It's like the person who goes to the restaurant and it's a very high priced restaurant, but the service is wonderful, the food's magnificent, the atmosphere is great, the waiters and waiters, they make you feel important, and that's perceived value. But somebody else might perceive value as simply being a nice home cooked meal, no frills, you're in and out quickly. So in other words, and this is why free markets work so well when they're allowed to really take place, because two people or two or more people can willingly exchange value with one another and both be better off than they were before the exchange took place. Value is always in the eyes of the beholder. It's that it's what they perceive as being of value, not what we perceive as being of value.
Those are great. Those are great examples. Can we go back to the accountant for just a moment?
Sure.
If the accountant saved me $5,000 or more, then it was a great deal. What if I go to the accountant and I pay him the $1,000 and he blunders on my tax return and I end up getting audited and it costs me $10,000? Not much value there.
And you did not receive, that was not a value-based exchange in terms of how you would perceive it. Because of that, I would suspect that you won't do business with that accountant again. You will not refer business to others. That's also another reason why the free market works. It rewards the good and it punishes and discourages the bad. So accountant has a vested personal interest in doing the best possible job he or she can for the consumer. Because when you service the consumer, when you provide great value, when you please the consumer, you're in a much better position to do more business with them and have them as your personal walking ambassadors.
I just hate to be the educator that is teaching that accountant that he needs to do a better job.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, WL.
I said I just hate to be the educator that is teaching that accountant that he needs to do a better job. losing the $10,000 because of the audit is no fun on my side. But you're absolutely right; it does have an impact on that accountant.
It's also why. Well, but here's what you can do to avoid that as much as possible. You do your business through referrals. There's a golden rule that's discussed in the story in the Go-Giver, and in this, Sam tells Joe. Joe is the protege in the story. And Sam tells Joe that there's a golden rule of business, and that is, all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust.
Yes.
So as a business person, your job is to develop these kind of relationships with people where you earn their know, their like, and their trust. I found my accountant through my lawyer, and I found him through someone else I knew, liked, and trusted. So that's how you protect yourself as a consumer to the degree possible. You do your research, you do your diligence, and and as much as possible, you do business through referral. As a consumer, you also need to protect yourself.
I'm assuming that you have a lot more information related to that in your book, Endless Referrals.
Well, Endless Referrals is sort of the system itself on how to build business, exactly. So it's really for that person who wants to learn how to develop those know, like, and trust relationships and do so in a way that they can feel very comfortable, they can feel good about themselves, and they can really have these relationships where both parties come out ahead.
Okay, let's go back to the Go-Giver now before we get away from that. What about the person who is unemployed and is struggling to try to find a job in today's economy? How will your book, The Go-Giver, help them?
Actually, what a wonderful question, because after reading the book, a woman by the name of Heather Battaglia actually wrote us with what happened with her group of people, mid-managers, who were suddenly found themselves unemployed, and we used her story in the follow-up book, Go-Givers Sell More. And what happened was they were unemployed, they were in a group, and they were all networking for jobs and so forth, and they weren't having a lot of success. What they then did is they took their focus off themselves and started trying to help each other land jobs. And all of a sudden, boom, it started happening and people were getting placed in jobs and then people were referring others to people. So it was really a neat thing. But even if you're going at it alone, what you've got to remember when you're looking for a job is you're self-employed, okay? You are selling your services to a future employer. So what you want to do is you need to be able to communicate your value to that employer. Now, to the degree that you can do that through referrals, that's wonderful. But be careful that you don't start hitting people up and just asking, hey, can you give me a job? Or who do you know who has a job? Because you're going to make them feel defensive and they're going to feel a little bit like, wow, they're going to make me look bad by doing it. So what you do is simply ask people for advice and ask people for introductions of people who you might be able to ask information on. Ask information about and so forth. And as you do that, what you need to be doing is keep on finding ways to communicate that you would be of value to an employer.
Okay, so what are some of those techniques? What can I do? I'm unemployed. How do I communicate that I have value to that employer?
Well, first thing you want to do is eat well before you meet the employer. As you go to places, let's say whether it's your local chamber of commerce, or let's say it's an organization you belong to, or it's wherever you happen to be networking with others. And again, we have to understand what networking is. Networking is not going somewhere, sticking business cards into people's face, glad-handing, slap-handing, backhanding, shaking hands, and saying, hey, give me a call, I'll cut you a deal, or I'm looking for a job. What networking is simply the cultivating of mutually beneficial give and take win-win relationships. So what you want to do is, though this sounds counterintuitive, focus on the other person. Ask them about themselves. Just begin a relationship with this person. After you meet this, you can let that person know if they ask what you're doing. You can let them know what you're looking to do and what your situation is. But don't come on too strong at that point, or any time, but definitely don't come on too strong. But what you want to do then is you can follow up with a nice handwritten note thanking that person. It was great meeting them. Also remember, during the conversation, ask them questions about themselves. How did you get started in your business? What do you enjoy most about what you do? Asking a person what I call the one key question, which is, how can I know if somebody I'm speaking with would be a good prospect for you?
You're listening to American Hope Talk Radio.
Is seeing that you are focused on them, on adding value to their life.
Thank you, Bob. It's been great having you on the show today. Be sure and go to Bob's website to find his latest books. Bob, can you give us that website address quickly?
Yes, it's www.burg, and that's burg.com.
Thank you very much, Bob. It was great having you on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You have been listening to American Hope Talk Radio with WL Laney. Questions and comments can be emailed to wl@wllaney.com. Go to www.wllaney.com for more programs like the one you heard today.